Hey, what's up, third grade? I am going to be showing you how to create your Chinese landscapes using a really cool technique with chalk. Some of the highest mountains in the world are in Asia. Now you're going to need a stencil to create your mountain. You're also going to need a Q-tip and a piece of black chalk. We're going to be learning how to make the foreground, middle ground, and background, as well as adding value to the mountains to give them awesome dimension. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to be creating a vertical work of art. To make sure that your art is positioned the proper direction, you want the Artemis symbol to always be at top, because otherwise your art will, when it's professionally framed and matted for the art show in March, it will be framed upside down. So you want to always make sure that Artemis symbol is on the top of your picture. It even says top portrait right here, because we're doing a vertical work of art. To start, you're going to need a stencil. Okay, and you want to position the stencil about, I say, a whole hand below the top of your page. So I've got my stencil lined up about a whole hand space away from the top of my page, because you're going to want room for your sky, so we can add your calligraphy and your sun, and we even might draw some birds flying in the sky. So we want to make sure we give it a nice good space from between the top and the start of our mountains. To begin, we want our stencil to be the cardboard side up. It's just easier with the chalk. And you're going to take your black piece of chalk and you're just going to rub some off on the edge of your paper. Notice the chalk breaks very easily. Notice the chalk is on the cardboard and not on the Artemis paper. It's important that you draw in color on the edge of the cardboard and not get any on the paper in order for this effect to work. Okay, so now I've got a nice powdered chalk edge from my stencil. Now I'm going to use the Q-tip. Instead of messing my hands up, I'm going to brush the chalk and spread it downwards. Watch carefully. I'm going down in a straight vertical line. I'm not going in any other direction. It's important you stay the same direction. And you can see the powder. If you missed any, you can always go back. Try to get the chalk to go as far down the page as you can. Alright, so I've got my very first mountain. And you see I've already got this awesome dimension because the chalk starts dark, and as you spread it further, the powder gets lighter and lighter. So now I want you to pick up a second stencil, one that looks different than the first one that you used. And just where the chalk is about to end from the first mountain, I want you to put the edge of your other one down. So just about there is where my chalk stops. I'm going to overlap this one over this one. I'm going to do the same thing all over again. Going down in a vertical line as far as the chalk will go. If there's too much chalk building up, you can always blow it away. Alright, so I've got my next set of mountains. Now I want you to pick a smaller stencil, because we're going to now work on the foreground. And the foreground is in our picture, and we want to try to squeeze in these last few mountains here. You could even angle the stencil up You don't have to have it perfectly straight like I did. You can play around with the direction of the stencil. I think I'm going to try that for this one. I'm going to do it up on an angle. But even though my stencil is up on an angle, I still want to carry the powder vertically. And this time I'm going to go all the way down to the end of the rectangle box. And you see my stencil wasn't as wide as my paper, so I can take this stencil and I can pick up where I left off here and finish off my picture. Blow away that chalk. You can always go back into your picture and add more, but very carefully, because you don't want to mess up that beautiful line that you made. So if I wanted to see I have an empty white space here, I can fill it in by adding more chalk to my stencil. But this is the part you want to be very careful with when you're brushing the chalk downwards. You don't want to brush it past this mountain line here, otherwise you're going to smear it away or erase it. And it's hard to cover up a mistake like that. I'm just going to lightly feather it, blow off the extra. I think I also want to maybe do a little angle over here. See if I can get a tall mountain in here. I like to lay it out first before I actually start adding the chalk. Remember to be very careful not to erase that mountain line that you made. This one I'm going to have to brush further down. Alright, so I've finished my mountains, and now it is time to add more details.